Ted Kravitz spotted something that no one else was talking about during preseason testing. He noticed that Ferrari had a peculiar aero probe setup on Hamilton's SF25. When Kravitz raises an eyebrow, you pay attention. This man has seen everything in F1. Team collapses, title rivalries, and more failed Ferrari championship bids than I can count. So when he gets excited, you know something's up. At first glance, it seemed like just another data gathering tool, something teams often use in testing to analyze airflow and fine-tune their setups. But this wasn't just about data collection. Kravitz hinted that Ferrari is using this to adapt the SF25 specifically to Hamilton's driving style. And if that's true, that's a big deal, because it means Ferrari is fully committed to tailoring this car around Hamilton rather than just slotting him into an existing system. Think about how rare this is. When a driver joins a new team, they usually spend the first season adapting to the car, not the other way around. But Ferrari seems to be fast-tracking Hamilton's influence. The aero probe Kravitz mentioned isn't just for show. It's likely gathering crucial airflow data to fine-tune the car's handling, a factor Hamilton has emphasized in recent years. Ferrari's balance issues from 2023, particularly their instability on corner exits, seem to be improving based on early feedback. This plays directly into Hamilton's strengths as a driver, allowing him to extract more control and confidence when pushing the car to its limits. Meanwhile, the SF25's overall response to Hamilton's input appears noticeably more aggressive than that of its predecessors, suggesting that Ferrari is willing to adapt its development approach to suit its new driver, rather than expecting him to adjust to its existing formula. It's almost as if Ferrari is skipping the adjustment phase and going straight into building a car that feels natural for Hamilton. This is not normal, and Kravitz knows it. Preseason testing is usually full of caution. Teams hide their true pace, play down their expectations, and focus on reliability. But Hamilton and Ferrari have already thrown down a marker. On the second morning of testing, Hamilton topped the timesheets with a 1 minute 29.379 seconds. It wasn't just fast, it was 0.6 seconds quicker than Ferrari managed on the same day last year. Now, testing times don't always translate to race pace. But this isn't about the numbers, it's about intent. Hamilton not only clocked a fast lap, he did it on a slightly damp track, in a brand new car, within 48 hours of stepping into it. If that's not a warning to the rest of the grid, I don't know what is. Kravitz isn't the type to make sensational claims, but his tone during testing was different. Ted Kravitz was impressed by Hamilton's speed. His analysis carried an urgency that suggested more than just admiration for a fast lap. It was the kind of tone that seasoned F1 experts use when they recognize a shift in power. Kravitz wasn't just acknowledging Ferrari's technical advancements, he was practically sending an SOS to the rest of the grid. Because Hamilton wasn't easing in, he was already making himself at home. I half expected Ferrari to slap his name on the factory entrance by the end of the session. In just a few days of testing, the 7-time champion is already shaping his car, already pushing it, already setting the standard. That's what caught Kravitz's attention, and that's why the rest of the grid should be taking notice, because Hamilton has been here before. Doubted, written off, told he made the wrong decision, and every single time, he's rewritten the script. Back in 2013, when he announced he was leaving McLaren for Mercedes, the reaction was brutal. Critics called it a mistake, saying he was leaving a proven race-winning team for a midfield project that had no real championship potential. But what happened next? Hamilton transformed Mercedes into a dynasty. Just a year later, he was standing at the top of the podium, kicking off one of the most dominant eras in F1 history. Then came 2016, the most intense title battle of his career, losing to Nico Rosberg by just 5 points. People said Rosberg had exposed his weaknesses, that Hamilton had been beaten fair and square, that his best days were behind him. But what did Hamilton do? He came back with a vengeance. Not only did he obliterate the competition in 2017, but he went on to win 4 consecutive world titles, silencing every critic along the way. And then, of course, there's the Mercedes downfall of 2022 and 2023. After years of dominance, the team collapsed, struggling to adapt to the new regulations. Suddenly, the whispers started. He's past his prime. He'll never win again. But instead of fading into the background, Hamilton made one of the boldest moves in F1 history, leaving behind a team he helped build, walking into the heart of Ferrari, and setting himself up for one final legendary comeback. Now, this is his moment. The same people who doubted him before are watching closely again. And if history tells us anything, this is exactly when Hamilton is at his most dangerous. Hamilton's early pace in Ferrari Red isn't just a feel-good story, it's a warning shot. The testing timesheets don't hand out points, but they do reveal one critical thing. Hamilton isn't here to adjust. He's here to dominate. And that begs the question, can he actually fight for the championship this year? Because if Ferrari has truly built a title-contending car, then we might be looking at something even bigger than Hamilton's comeback. We might be looking at the return of an all-out multi-team title war. Let's be real. Max Verstappen and Red Bull have owned F1 for the past few years. The RB19 and RB20 were basically cheat codes. No one, not Mercedes, not Ferrari, not McLaren, could consistently touch them. And now, with Hamilton in the mix, this isn't just a Leclerc versus Verstappen rivalry anymore. It's a statement of intent from Ferrari. Verstappen has been untouchable in a dominant car. But can he handle Hamilton in a competitive Ferrari? Ferrari has always had the pace. But can they finally stop shooting themselves in the foot when it matters? If they get their strategy right, if they don't make their classic mistakes, this could be Ferrari's most serious title shot since 2012. But here's where it gets interesting. When Hamilton moved to Mercedes in 2013, no one thought it was the right move. Mercedes wasn't winning, and Red Bull was the dominant force with Vettel. Sound familiar? Now, in 2025, Red Bull is dominating again, and Ferrari is seen as an outsider. But what if this is the same setup as 2014? What if Hamilton has just walked into the next dominant car? That's exactly what Ted Kravitz was hinting at. Hamilton's early adaptation to the SF25 isn't just impressive, it's concerning for the competition. Because if Ferrari is already showing speed in testing and Hamilton is already getting comfortable, what happens when he gets even more track time? And that brings us to the biggest question of all. Can Ferrari actually deliver over a full season? This is where the real challenge begins. Because Ferrari has been here before. They've had fast cars in testing. They've had title hopes. But something always goes wrong. In 2017, they were fast enough to fight Mercedes, but threw away the title with reliability issues. During 2018, Ferrari was playing another competitive season until their development stalled and Vettel cracked under pressure. And in 2022, arguably the fastest car early in the season, but strategy disasters and mistakes handed the title to Red Bull. See the pattern? Hamilton is a driver who thrives in a structured environment. He likes clear direction, well-planned strategies, and a team that doesn't trip over itself. Ferrari? They've been the exact opposite for the past decade. So the real question isn't whether Hamilton is fast enough to win the title. It's whether Ferrari can finally stop being Ferrari. However, there's one more question to ask. While most of the talk is about Ferrari versus Red Bull, we can't ignore McLaren. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri finished 2024 as one of the strongest driver pairings on the grid. McLaren's development pace last season was insane. They closed a massive gap to Red Bull by mid-season. If their car is as strong as they claim, they could make this a three-way title fight. And let's not forget Mercedes. They're now entering a post-Hamilton era. George Russell is their lead driver, and they're desperate to prove they can win without Hamilton. If they make a major breakthrough in car development, they might just sneak back into the fight. A four-way battle? That's the kind of season I have been waiting for years. So, can Hamilton really win his 8th title? It's too early to say. Ferrari's testing pace is exciting, but we won't know their true strength until the first few races. But what we do know is that Hamilton is adapting faster than expected, already influencing Ferrari's development, still just as hungry as ever. And if Ferrari finally gives him the car to fight, then Max Verstappen might have the toughest season of his career ahead of him. Hamilton didn't just move to Ferrari for fun. He didn't leave Mercedes to cruise around in a midfield car. He's here for one last shot at greatness. If he wins a title with Ferrari, he'll do something no driver has done since Schumacher.